Welcome to Living in the New Covenant, a daily podcast from In-Depth Studies. I'm your host, Paul Honeycutt, and I'm joined by Geoff Volker. Our topic today is, does God change his mind?
Paul, it is a common question that I get asked all the time. And it usually comes up in the context of prayer. We say, okay, we should pray. And then we ask the question, is prayer simply therapeutic? It makes you feel better. Well, it does. That's true. But Scripture also speaks that prayer brings things to pass. So then the very natural question is, well, then does prayer change God's mind? Or you approach this question from another angle, like you're reading in Genesis about at the time of the flood, and God was grieved that he had made mankind. Okay, you have these words, grieved, regret, depending on which translation you use. And if we would use those terms, we would clearly admit that we would mean that if I knew then what I know now, I would not have done what I did. Well, in 1 Samuel chapter 15, we have the account of the judge Samuel. God is using the judge Samuel to communicate to Saul, the first king of Israel, that God is fed up with him, and he's going to remove him as king and replace him with David. So that's the scene. So 1 Samuel 15, just to kind of get the idea, in verse 10, the language is, now, then the word of the Lord, and I'm reading from the new NIV, came to Samuel, quote, I regret that I have made Saul king, because he has turned away from me and has not carried out my instructions. So he says, I regret that I have made Saul king. And so once again, if that's all we had from Scripture, we would clearly say that God changes his mind, because it seems rather black and white. But we go to the end of that scene, get down to verses 28 and verses 28 and 29. And it says, Samuel turned to him, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, that is taken from Saul, and has given it to one of your neighbors, that's going to be David, to one better than you. Then this is the verse 29 of 1 Samuel 15. He who is the glory of Israel does not lie or change his mind, for he is not a human being that he should change his mind. Now let's see, once again, very clear. Well, what does Scripture assume that we understand? And I think it is that God is very different from us in his being. We call this an ontological problem, a problem of being. God is different. He can do things that we cannot do. And so the language is, I've regret or that I've made Saul king, so he's going to replace him. And yet he immediately tells us in verse 29 that, guys, I'm not a man that I should change my mind. And so we need to just really think about this for a second. What must happen for someone to change their mind? And we would say, well, you get new information. Okay, so can God get new information? Of course, we would say, well, no, he determines everything before the fact. And so the category of new information simply does not exist with God. And if there is no category of new information, there can be no changing of the mind. Because God does not get anything new that he does not already possess. Unlike us, we are finite human beings. We do get new information, and our new information at times does cause us to change our mind. So then finally, if that's the case, God doesn't change his mind. Well, we know that we have to address the language. Well, we would call that anthropomorphic language. The Greek word for man is anthropos, anthropology, study of man. The idea is that the language, it gives the impression that God is just like a man. But in the context of our study, 1 Samuel 15, he tells us very explicitly he is not a man. Okay? And so then we end up going back to our original sort of comment about prayer. does prayer change God's mind? And we would have to say no. Yet, prayer does bring things to pass. For us, a genuine place of mystery is, how does this happen? And the truth is, we don't know. We give what you and I would call the theological shrug. We don't know. It's just we know that prayer does bring things to pass. We're told to pray about things, of getting things accomplished or done. But we know equally clearly that prayer doesn't change his mind. So how does it work? We don't know. Flat out do not know. So that's where we are on this rather basic question that really causes us to kind of explore God's character. What is he like? So does God change his mind? The answer is no, though he does appear to change his mind. That's absolutely true in Scripture.
Well, that's fascinating. If you would like more information about this topic or anything else regarding New Covenant theology, feel free to go to our website. That address is ids.org. Or if you'd prefer, you can contact Geoff directly.
Yes, you can. My phone number is area code 480-313-8558. That's my cell number. My email address, I should say, is volker.geoff@gmail.com. But remember, Geoff is a little different. It's Geoff. So volker.geoff@gmail.com.